Hello and welcome to episode 11. Today we're going to look at the disconnect between what players can communicate that they want, what they actually may be looking for, and how a developer can receive that feedback. Before we get started on this topic, I have two thank yous. The first one is to SimFamSP for helping me come up with the subject for today's video. And the second one is to our viewer Luke Chambers, who became the first of our Rocket Hub fuelers. So thank you very much. Now, moving on to the subject at hand. There's always been a seeming disconnect between when people come to developers with their feedback and how the developers then interpret that. Often people attribute this to spin doctoring, to agendaizing. I think the solution is a much simpler one, and I think it's simply that we as people are often very bad at explaining, especially through a text medium, what we actually want. In return as well, I think that sometimes there is a case of developers falling into what I call the spreadsheet of fun trap. And that is where there's a guy sat in his office plugging away what features are going to be in a game, what feature sets he wants to put in, and he looks down this spreadsheet and he thinks, oh, this feature set was well received in this game, and this inventory system was well received in this game, and this dialogue system was well received, so they can have 3 points of fun each. And this was a bad idea, so this one can receive -2 points of fun. And he gets to the end of his spreadsheet and he looks at it and he looks at all the features they're going to include and all the ones they're going to take out. And he looks at the feedback they've got as to whether something's fun or not. And he adds up maybe a point total of what's good and what's bad. And he arrives at the conclusion that this game is going to be fun because of X, Y, and Z. The reality often turns out very different, but the intent is to make a good game always. So I think we as players can often be a little bit more helpful in how we provide our feedback, how we provide developers with our contribution, really, to what we want to see in the follow-up games, to save them from getting into the spreadsheet of fun. And the first way to do this is quite simply, if you give your feedback via a forum or an email, read it to yourself first, read it out loud. Don't just read it in your head, but read it out loud and make sure it sounds good. And when you're providing that feedback, question yourself, why do I find this fun? Why do I find this not fun? There was a case that somebody brought up on one games company's official forums where the discussion was around inventory management. And somebody came forward after a game and said, hey, the inventory management in this game sucks. It's not fun for me to wade through all these hundreds of items trying to figure out which ones I want to use, which ones I want to trash and sell, and so on. And so the developers were like, okay, cool, we heard you. So what we've done is we've removed inventory management from the game. Now you will get less items, but the choices will be more meaningful and it'll be done via a different way. And some players liked this and some didn't. And some of the players said, well, this isn't what I asked for when I said I didn't like your inventory management. But it is, because they didn't quantify that statement of I don't like inventory management with an actual context or an actual meaning. And text lacks tone. So it's very easy for the meaning behind what you're saying to get lost. Now, from a developer viewpoint, they could often easily be accused of forgetting the spirit and the emotion behind games. And I think a lot of that is down to the fact that games are made in a particular way by a particular brand of person. And often, especially when it's a big project, they are locked away working 12, 14 hours a day on this particular game, trying to get it polished and ready and out and there and launched. And the problem comes when they just lose that little bit of connection with the people they're making the games for. Because every decision you make as a developer is going to make sense to you, but it's not always going to make sense to the people playing the game. So in that, you've got a two-way disconnect there. You've got the developers not quite understanding what the fans are looking for, and the fans not quite understanding how to express what they want in a game. And the way you combat this is simply by being more open with each other. You get your developers taking part in forum discussions, talking openly, and your players talking openly with developers. You have to do this to really get a grip of what people want. But the problem is developers are always very reluctant to do this because it seems these days anything written on a forum becomes some kind of legally binding contract in the eyes of the players. And a developer can't say, well, we'd like to do something like this, without thousands of people taking it as, we are going to do this and this is how it's going to be. And then you always get the typical internet response of people polarizing their own opinions. Either they love something or they hate it. There's very little room for middle ground, it seems, on the internet at the moment. So the first thing to remember when you're dealing with developers is that they are people. They work hard. Often they are actually disconnected from the people they're working to entertain simply because of the way the product is made. So when you're giving them feedback, try and be more positive and a bit more supportive of that element. Now, the next thing to do is to realize that forums are not your only way of communicating with the people who are making the games. They're probably not even the best way of communicating with them. Although forums are very useful for getting a broad cross-spectrum of opinions of your core fan base, the reality of it is that the majority of people who post on forums only do so when something's wrong. Because if they enjoy the product, if they enjoy the game and they're happy with it, generally they're going to be too busy playing it. People come to forums when they have something they want to get off their chest and do so publicly, and quite often that is the more negative aspects of the reception of your game and product. So if you want to praise something, yeah, a forum is a good way of doing it, and the same with criticism. But I would suggest looking for an email address, going on the website, looking for a way to directly email the company and say, hey, look, here's what I thought. Get in touch with third-party websites and see if they're running features on particular things that you thought were good or bad. Don't just content yourself with posting on a forum and leaving it at that. And don't make the mistake of raging on a forum and hoping that that's going to get you a positive response as well, because it's likely not. If you are sensible and measured in your approach, contacting the company directly, contacting fan sites, contacting gaming magazines and such can yield much better results, because these are the places where, I don't want to say pressure, but that's the best word for it, can be applied to the developers and to the design structures behind games. Certainly if the critical reception of a game is negative, the company that's made it, if they're going to produce a sequel, are going to take notice of this. I don't like systems such as Metacritic, but it is a good way for people to get, again, polarized opinions out there. If you really like something or you really dislike it, that's what you tend to find on Metacritic when it comes to the user reviews. People are not very good at objectifying what they liked and disliked about a game. It's only, I hated this or I liked this. And there's very little room for the in-between. Although, if something is overwhelmingly good or bad, it's certainly a good way to get a measure of that. I think the other thing that we as players can do when it comes to dealing with developers is simply to put more structure into the feedback we give. Always try and qualify a negative statement with a positive one. For example, when you are structuring an email to send in to somebody, if you want to say, well, I really dislike this feature, tell them something you liked as well. Remember, these are human beings. Although they're paid sometimes good money to do the work they do, and you know you have a right to expect a good quality of service for them, they are still people. So a good structured bit of feedback will go much further than just having a go at somebody. Think of it when you're dealing with somebody in the street, or when you're dealing with somebody in a bar or a pub. If you go to them in a friendly manner and say, hey, look, I can see why you'd think that's funny or that's good, but actually it's not. Could you pack it in? They're probably going to be more receptive than you charging up to them and going, hey, you stupid person, stop doing that right now. It's going to get you a better response. And the same is true through emails as well. So when dealing with developers, I think what we've covered so far is remember that they're people. Give them structured feedback, give them reasons when you say you like or dislike something, and don't just go through forums. Remember that you've got emails, you've got third-party fan sites, you've got things like that you can use to apply external pressures to help bring in positive changes. And remember ultimately that your goal is going to be the same as theirs. They want to produce a good game that sells well, that people enjoy, and therefore more people buy. You want them to produce a good game that you will enjoy and that you can encourage your friends to play. So ultimately you both want the same thing, you're just coming at it from a different angle. If you keep these factors in mind and you look beyond just the forums as a way to give feedback, I think what you'll find is that as a community you can influence more change, you can influence more improvement in games and in the developer-player relationship than if you just go and have a bash at somebody on the forums. I'm going to wrap this up at this point. I hope I've given you at least some food for thought in how you deal with developers, and keep in mind that there is always that spreadsheet of fun trap that a lot of them will fall into, and that we as players are the best equipped people to keep them out of that and keep reminding them what's fun and what's good. So if you've got any feedback about the video, please do get in contact via Facebook, via Steam, via Twitter, send me a PM, send me an email, let me know what you think. If you like the videos, remember to hit the like button, share one with your friends, let them see it as well. We do have plans by the end of the month to actually get a website launched, which will have a few extra features to do more community building. There's also a project I'm going to be looking into very soon where we're going to use this channel and these videos to help promote your channels and your videos as well. But I'll talk a bit more about that when it's nearer to the time. So for now, just remember to help promote these videos to your friends and to various other places. Link them where appropriate. Enjoy your gaming and be good to each other. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.